Welcome to SmartAsset's Advisor Success Series. I am Michael Carvin. I'm the founder and CEO of SmartAsset. I'm joined today by Robert Gilliland. Excited to have you on the program, Robert.
Well, Michael, thank you for having me. It's pretty exciting.
Well, let's start by just hearing a little bit about yourself, your practice, how you got into wealth management.
Yeah, the way I got into wealth management is in college. I was sitting in my very first finance class, and the professor said, at that time they were called brokers. Said a broker 5 years out makes $100,000 a year, and at that time the top 1% of this country made $100,000, and I decided I was going to become a financial advisor, and the rest they say is history. So I've basically been doing this for going on about 25 years. After graduating from college, came straight to Houston to become a financial advisor with a major wirehouse here in Houston. I spent 20 plus years of that career, but I guess about 21 at a major wirehouse. I was in leadership at that, as well as managing my team. In February of 2020, which tells you my timing was impeccable, we left and became an independent financial advisor. And we founded Concentra Wealth Management. What was great about that is after about 6 weeks, 96% of our clients moved. So we had a process down. We got our clients moved, and then I guess probably about a year later after that, after we had everyone and everything and got our sea legs under us, if you will, we found SmartAsset and started growing and really haven't looked back. And so that our team right now consists of, it's a total of 7, including myself. I've got a CIO, used to work for BlackRock. I've got two other financial advisors and an associate advisor, and then our assistant, as well as a marketing associate, to help us help us continue to grow and market the right way.
Look, anytime you're starting your own firm, there are a lot of challenges. But starting your own firm in February 2020, anything to share about getting live right before a global pandemic?
Yeah, just be prepared to work. I mean, actually, it ended up working out well for us because all the major firms completely shut down. And here in Texas, the governor said if you were a finance company, you were considered systemically important. And so we claimed that we were a finance company. And so we worked every day. And I told everyone they could work from home or come into the office. And what was amazing is the team said, all right, let's go. We'll be in the office. That's the best way. And so we were very fortunate, and it's a lot of work, but once you get done, it feels great.
Good for you guys. And how did you grow your book of business before you started your own firm? You obviously already had a number of clients that came with you. How did you get started?
Yeah, I've done everything, right? I mean, there's a finite number of things that you can do. There's no new inventive way. You can get referrals, actively get referrals. You can network, you can do seminars, you can cold call, you can cold mail, you can knock on doors, which I've never done. But basically, the way that I grew my practice was back in the early 90s. And when it was easy, you could mail out 2,000 invitations and have 150 buying units show up to a series of seminars. You buy them a dinner, and you would end up with 15 to 20 appointments. And then you would have some close ratio off of that, right? And so it was relatively easy, but I think times have changed. And so the way that I grew my business was really through referrals, seminars, and networking.
And it sounds like the seminar strategy is less effective today than it was when you started with that. What do you think has changed?
Well, I think that people get bombarded by it. It ends up being extremely expensive because you have to have nice dinners and all of this. And there's become a segment of the population when seminars are no longer new, they think that they're going to a sales pitch. Well, there's a huge segment of that group that shows up just for the meal, because you're having it at a nice steakhouse or a nice restaurant, right? And they're showing up for the meal with zero intention of actually having a conversation with you. Too many people have turned them into sales as opposed to informational things. And so people feel like they're being sold the second they walk in.
And do you still do that anymore?
No, I thought about doing it, but then in all reality, I found SmartAsset, and at the same budget, I could do better. So
So tell us a little bit more about your practice. Can you tell us a little about your AUM and the kind of client you target?
Yeah, we're my office being here in Houston, Texas, is right in the middle of the energy corridor. And most of those people who work for these energy companies want help with their 401ks. They want to know how to create a retirement income plan. They want to know how whether or not those assets. So our typical client has about $2.5 million that they have about $2.5 million and they're either at or near retirement. Our main focus is in retirement planning. But what we're really, really, really good at is helping people move from an accumulation phase into an income phase. And how do you create that income stream for them so that they don't have to worry about what happens with the market on a day to day. We do that without utilizing some of the traditional ways, though sometimes we will utilize annuities and things like that. But there are other ways to do that. And when you go through, it really gives them peace of mind because and it gives them peace of mind because the way that we focus is on the outcomes that our clients are looking for and ensuring that we're able to reach those outcomes with a high degree of certainty.
That makes a lot of sense. And so does that mean that you go through a financial planning exercise before you onboard a client? Can you talk?
100% of the time, everything starts with the plan. Everything starts at finding out what's important to the client, finding out the things that are must-haves, like-to-haves, and would be nice to haves, right? And going through and assigning a probability of success using Monte Carlo simulators to determine what are probabilities of success, and then working with our clients as a partner to help them achieve the goals that they want. And the beautiful part about that is we can go through and keep score every step of the way. So every year they know exactly where they are, and yep, we can buy that second home, or here we can go on these vacations, or what help these grandkids out with college. So it gives our clients a lot of peace of mind starting with that plan.
It makes a lot of sense. So you've probably got people that are really interested in understanding how they go from accumulation to a sound income plan. Are you also offering tax strategy, estate planning, other services that clientele
Yeah,
might want?
we have obviously do tax strategies a lot of because we focus so much on retirement and retirement plans. There's obviously a window of opportunity here with regard to Roth conversions, but with our clients who have maybe sold their business or have significant assets on the taxable side, you would be almost committing malpractice in this type of environment if you weren't paying attention to the tax efficient management of the portfolio. So we help our clients out. We don't do taxes. We also don't do estate planning. We don't have an attorney or a CPA on staff, but we work very closely with those CPAs and attorneys and work with every single one of our clients, especially as clients are aging, on their estate planning, making sure that they have the things in order and we have the most efficient transfer of assets as possible.
Did you start working with SmartAsset before you started your own firm? After? How did you come to start partnering with us?
So what's funny is I was talking to a buddy of mine from my old firm, actually up in Buffalo, and he told me that he had just been told he could no longer use SmartAsset. And I go, "What's SmartAsset?" And he tells me that this is what he did, and he opened up a $20 million account in the first 3 months and 10 other relationships. I'm like, "What's the name of that again?" And so I reached out to SmartAsset, and I think it was 2021. Well, I guess it's 3 years now with SmartAsset. I started off kind of slow to kind of figure out, but then what I realized is that it's a numbers game, and if I make this investment, I got to make it work, and more is better. And got my team trained up, and that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, that's one of I think the first insights that all of our successful partners realize. It's about getting at bats, and the more at bats you get, the more clients you're gonna be able to convert.
It's funny you say that because when I explain to people about SmartAsset, other firms that I'm friends with and stuff, what I tell them is that they get 3 people, but I don't care because it's just like a batting order. And after you go through the first round of the batting order, the 7th batter is going to come up, right? Or the 5th batter is going to come up. It doesn't matter. It's a circle. So and if If you get a good one, hey, that's great. And if you get a bad one, it doesn't matter. The next one's going to be a good one.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly right. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about how your account is set up. How many referrals, how many leads are you getting on a monthly basis? Yeah, what's the makeup of how you're working with us?
So one of the things when I very first started is that I did the 500 to a million for half of the leads, and then the other half over a million. What I
Yep,
realized
two
is
hundred
that
and fifty
yeah,
thousand to a million.
yeah, 250 to a million. And what I realized is that I was if I was having the same success in each one. And so what I did is what for the last 18 months or so, I've been focused just on the million plus. And I spend minimum roughly about $5,000. I kind of scale in months because I've been doing this. I know there are months that are really good. We also, at the very beginning of the year, we do what's called surge, where we meet with every single one of our clients in the first 6 weeks of the year. So I scale back a little bit there. We still are engaged and involved in getting leads and following up and doing that, but we scale back, then we ramp it back up. I've spent as much as 8,000 a month for several months, and as low as 3,000 every single month.
And what's your experience been? So, can you talk a little bit about for every 100 referrals you're getting from us, how many are you getting in touch with? How many are you setting meetings with? And then how many are you trying to close?
Yeah, so um, I guess basically we get between 25 and 40 leads a month. Just kind of depends on what the spend is. This is what I've noticed. Making the phone calls is increasingly difficult. It goes to voicemail, it goes to, or just doesn't get answered or gets hung up. So one of the great things, and in fact, I've got a meeting this afternoon. I've never even talked to this lady. She was a smart asset lead. She scheduled it because of the automated process that's inside of there. We have had, it used to be that when we get a lead, we hit them with a phone call, we send the email, and it was all of this was all manual. Now we have it so that it is kind of it's all automated, and we make phone calls. And then I've got other people on my team that after the leads, after the two primary advisors have reached out enough, we kind of give it a little bit of breather room. And then I put my younger advisors to go to get meetings scheduled for us. So we may wait like 3 to 4 months, and they go and they call, and they're just kind of on their list. They give them a call, they'll send them an email. What's crazy about that is just this week, we just scheduled another meeting with a guy who was 2 years ago from Smart Asset. So the key is that what the way I describe Smart Asset and the leads and where it is that just because you get a name, Joe Smith, doesn't mean Joe Smith's becoming a client. It is a full contact sport, and you need to have a repeatable, scalable process that luckily can be automated to go to reach out to them to get them to come in. It does take you making phone calls. It does take you trying to get the meeting, finding out what's important to them. And so it's that's kind of what our process is.
Yeah, you said a couple of really important things there. One, scalable, repeatable process. It is competitive. Consumers like the fact that they have choice. They like the fact that they can talk to, multiple advisors. It actually gives them more confidence that the advisor they ultimately go with is the right one for them because they've spoken to a couple. So it actually lifts overall conversion rates. Um, so that scalable, repeatable process is super, super important. Um, uh, and then understanding who is going to talk to them when. It sounds like you have your primary advisor talk to them first, and then a junior advisor follow up with them a little bit later.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, it is. So like if I just got a lead, I would be reaching out to them very shortly. I have it automated to send them a text, send them an email, but I'm going to be the one who's going to be calling them to get inside there. If we go 90 days and we haven't been able to make contact, then we give it a bit of a breather. That's when it goes onto the list for the newer advisors to try to reach out.
and that's the other thing that I think is really misunderstood about our platform. I think advisors think that if they are not able to get in touch with or close that person within the first couple of months, that's not a good referral. That's just, cost of doing business, right? That's just a part of the process. One of our biggest partners closes more than half of their clients after the 6 month mark. So
Wow.
they might have a meeting with them, they might get in touch with them before 6 months, but the close is not happening until 6 months later. So, what you're doing with picking up the phone and calling those consumers 4, 5, 6 months, it sounds like you've got a great one, kind of 2 years later. That's really, really going to yield a lot of benefit for your overall conversion rates.
I feel very. I mean, look, I've already bought the leads. They're not costing me anymore, and even if out of 100 we just get 5 meetings, that's a or 2 meetings. That we're good on that. I will tell you something that I have found that's really 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 interesting about Smart Asset. Sometimes you go to think through kind of these lead sources and what leads you can get. You really have no idea where and what it is. My team has talked to, because of Smart Asset, my team has talked to a Hall of Fame NBA basketball player from Houston. Actually had a conversation, got a meeting set up. He ended up having to cancel. We're still in the process of following up on that. A Hall of Fame NFL football player from Houston, led the NFL in tackles for 11 years. We've had conversations with people who have real money. I've talked to a guy who said that he was going to be coming into $100 million. There's an opportunity there. It's not some kid out there typing in. These are real leads that generate real business and real opportunities.
Yeah, it's some of the stories we get to hear are amazing. We've got a person who said they owned an original copy of the Declaration of Independence. That was a pretty interesting one. That person
Yeah.
had about $40 million of investable assets. We had a lottery winner. A guy had just won $100 million, was sitting on $100 million of cash, had come through. You can imagine that's a pretty good referral to get. And so, look, what we're trying to do is find your ideal consumer. So for your firm, what we're trying to do is find that consumer with $1 to $3 million of investable assets who's approaching retirement, and the biggest concern they have, and this is the most common thing we see for consumers, why they're coming to us. They're coming to us because they're getting close to retirement. Average investable assets, just north of $1 million, and they're nervous. They're nervous about how they're going to manage their retirement. They need planning help. They know it's exactly what you described. That they're kind of nearing the end of their accumulation phase, and they're worried about how they're going to take care of healthcare expenses. They're worried about what should they do with real estate? How they're going to think about taxes? They need real help, and they need intelligent investment management help, and so that's the sweet spot. But when we're going after that, we get a lot of other stuff. We get a lot of other stuff too, which is great. And so it sounds like you got some great professional athletes that could become clients as well. That's really great to hear.
Yeah, it's exciting and something that if you were just talking to other financial advisors, they wouldn't necessarily believe that someone like that is actually filling out a questionnaire online or anything like that. That's what I think I've been most amazed at, is that it works.
I think the bias that most people have is, you think because it's a digital experience, it's all online, people think it's going to be younger people, less investable assets, and that's just not really the case. The data is really really compelling. It's average investable assets. The category that you're in, just over $1 million. It's an older consumer nearing retirement, and it's funny that you mentioned professional athletes, because if you think about the accumulation phase is you accumulate a lot, but very quickly.
Right.
And so they have a lot of complexity, because they're probably going to make money over 10, 15 years, not over 30, 40 years.
Yeah, if they're lucky, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. So how do you think about ROI? How do you think about the return on your investment with us? How do you know it's working? How do you know it makes financial sense for you?
yeah, so uh, basically, if you took that, if we look at like last year, where I spent where my budget was about $8,000 a month, right? So if we just took that 6 month period, and that's roughly $100,000 a year inside of that. The way I've always viewed this business is that in the first year, I want to make 150% of what I spend. My experience with regard to smart asset is every year I've done it, I've brought in between 150 and $25 million worth of assets directly attributable to smart asset. Okay. And so if you go with say 150, I spent 100,000, 150 or $15 million in assets at 1% is $150,000. I made 150% of what I spent. So that's year one. Year two, it's all, as they say in Louisiana, lagniappe. It's all just a little bit extra, right? And so I've always viewed that if I can get at least 150% on what I spend, then that's a good investment. But the thing I found real interesting, specifically around smart asset, is it cycles. The first part of the year, and it's happened every year. The first part of the year, some of that has to do with things that we've got going on. I get to May or June, and I'm like, we're not doing anything. What's going on? Well, how come we're behind at these numbers? What's happening here? Then the last half of the year, it all comes rushing in. Or at the end of the year, I'm like, we're way behind. And all of a sudden, at the beginning of the year, we've got these assets that are coming in. It's cyclical that it happens, so it's just a matter of trusting the process and continuing to follow through, and it will come. And I have zero question about whether or not it's a good investment, because you're not going to hire a bank of cold callers. That's not going to be successful. If you're going to do a digital strategy, which by the way we do, if you're going to do some sort of digital marketing, there's not an immediate turn. It's going to take you 24 months before you really get any sort of traction. You have to get 10,000 followers before you start to see those things happen. And so this is a way that, and seminars are expensive and they take a ton of time and you end up feeding a bunch of people for no reason. This is a way that with that very same type of budget, you can go and do this. And if you do like to speak in front of people and do things, well, with these leads, you can now turn around and it doesn't just stop with making a phone call and sending an email. You can take that group and do webinars. You can take that group and do targeted email type of things and things like that. Any investment that I make, I want to make 150%. So if cover my costs 100% and 50% profit, I guess a better way to say that. So if I spend $100,000 and I bring in $15 million in assets at a 1% velocity on that, or asset management fee on it, then I'm going to make $150,000. So that's now I'm 50, my profit, I guess, is 50% right there. And now I can keep on. That's in year one. Year two, it just goes up.
That's great math. That's great. That's great math. And what do you know the total amount of money you've raised with Smart Asset?
Well, if we go with 3 years, it's probably around 45 or $50 million.
That's great. That's great to hear. It sounds like we've become, a valuable part of your business.
Well, it is the primary way that we market. In fact, with my younger people, one of the things that in going and clearly I have gray hair. What I realized in going through and looking at my book is that the average age of our book's about 57. The people who we're talking to fit right inside of that average age. We call that our core business, right? But if I'm looking at longevity of this firm for all the people that are here and for myself, I'm looking at longevity, I kind of want to drop that down a little bit, that average age. And so the things that I'm thinking about is that I stay focused here on that core, and then I add additional for these younger people to go to call where they're going to connect with. And so we're in the process of doing that. So now we're going to have really two different focuses coming in, because I do think you can focus on those younger people too, because there is money. That 28 to 38-year-old executive, there's a lot of things that a financial advisor can do, and you can make that a profitable business. Our bread and butter and the stuff that's fun and easy to do and great relationships is something that we can do, and we do it very, very, very well, helping our clients that are in retirement. But it's also fun helping people grow to that level.
That's great. That's great. I love to hear that. I'm curious what advice you have for advisors that are new to the Smart Assets platform, or have not seen success yet? What are some things that you think could make them more successful working with us?
I think what they need to do is make sure that they have a process, and AMP is a great way to have that process so that it's automated. Okay. The other is trust that process. Um, People want to do business with people that they like, and the great thing is that because of this process and technology where it is, you can really utilize technology to help you. So just sending a 200 word email isn't necessarily going to do that. Shoot a personalized video. Hey, Michael, Smart Asset connected us and thought we should talk. But below is a link to connect to my calendar. Would love to schedule 20 minutes just to introduce us and find out how we might be a resource for you. Send that email. You have to have this process in place to be able, and it has to be repeatable. The other thing that I would tell everyone who is thinking about or using Smart Asset is you have to give it time. One of the things when I started in the business, it was basically you had a 30-day close period, right? Technology, life, business, everything has kind of expanded that. Our close time is about 45 days from the first meeting, which may take us 3 weeks to get that first meeting to close. And so knowing that sales process has expanded, right, can go as long as 90 days. Be patient. Remember that it is a full contact sport. You cannot reach out and contact. You have to reach out and contact every single person, and you have to do it multiple times, multiple ways. You have to meet that client where they are, right? You can't have them be forced into it. You have to meet them in the manner that they want to.
And I'm curious, when you get that meeting and you get in the room or on the phone or over Zoom with a prospect, what tips do you have for advisors on how to handle that first conversation? I've seen some advisors have a very strong sales pitch, and some advisors are in listen mode. Tell me about you, and I'll figure out how I can help. What do you guys do?
Well, I think the biggest thing, without being too philosophical, but I think that it resonates, is you have to find out what's most important to the client. Simon Sinek in a TED Talk and a book says your why. Explain to people the why. Well, I think that's been used a lot. The reality is that as an advisor, you have to find out their why. So the way that we do it is we go through and peel the onion back and find out what's most important to them and what caused them to even click, yes, I want an advisor to reach out to me. When we find that out, then what we want to do is show you solutions. We're not trying to sell. We're just trying to show you solutions to make sure that your goals and what you're wanting to have happen can happen. And we'll go through and build this plan. And then it's all about them, finding out about the family, finding out what their goals, finding out what they need to have happen, and then show them the solution to that. At that point, I don't think it's selling. I think it's like, hey, you've got a problem. I've got a solution. And I heard you. Clients want to be heard. They don't want to be sold. The thing is that as an advisor, unless you have a process for actively getting referrals or some other sort of marketing thing, I truly think that this is as easy as it can be to be able to get in touch with people. You have to remember that it is a full contact sport. You have to be active. It's not passive. You have to be reaching out. But if you're patient and you work the process, then it leads to success.